Hello and welcome back to Renew, Revive, Repair. Today we have a slightly different video. It's not a TV, but a different piece of electronic, and it's the Dyson V6 handheld vacuum cleaner. And the brush bar isn't spinning. So before we get started, the most important thing is to have these two tools. You need a T10 Torx and a T9. So the T10 will be used to remove all of the screws from the bottom of this, and the T9 will be used to get to a deep Torx screw. Make sure it's a long reach one, otherwise you won't be able to remove it and you won't be able to repair your model. So these can be picked up for not much money online now on Facebook Marketplace, maybe for about £30–40, which is much cheaper than the new ones. I'll put a price in for how much these costed new, but these can be picked up for slightly cheaper money now because the battery often dies and needs replacing. And if you have this problem, which is the roller brush stops automatically like this, as you heard it rotates for about a second or two, but then immediately stops, then this is the video for you. So let's get on with repairing this, and the issue is in the brush head. So first of all, we'll detach the brush head. I'm doing this one-handed. So we don't need the main body, we just need to focus on this piece because the issue lies inside here where there is an issue with the motor bearing. Over time, hairs get caught up in this and it tangles up the motor, and therefore it overheats or has too much resistance to turn, and the device knows that and it cuts off the power and prevents the brush from rotating so it doesn't burn out the motor. First of all, we'll use a coin to undo this clip and here as well. So we'll remove the roller brush and we'll remove this cap here. I'm going to use a 2p coin if you're in the UK, perfect size. As you can see, rotate it anti-clockwise to unlock. So that's unlocked now. We can lift this piece up, put it to the side, and for the side it's the same story. Rotate it anti-clockwise to unlock, and then we can remove that end piece and then pull that whole brush out. It's a bit more tricky with one hand, but I don't have a tripod with me today. Okay, so we'll place those to the side and in order of how we took them out so we don't forget where they go. And now we have to remove these Torx screws. There's one here, another one there, 3 slightly deeper ones, and another 2 here, and the final one up there. So what we're going to need to use is a T10 Torx screw. So we'll go around all of these and just undo them. So what I've just done off camera is pre-loosen all of them with this because they're quite tight, and now we can just whiz them all off. There's one there. I'm going to place these again in order and also in the shape of which I took them out. So that one's the top right. So with all the screws removed, we can remove this cap here. Just like that. This has like a little spring in there, so it can roll on the floor. This is a good opportunity to clear out any hairs or debris, which I've already done previously, and also a good chance to wipe down this transparent cap. So now with that removed, we can separate this bottom plastic. So you can just give it a little push. You might want to use a flathead screwdriver to pry it open. So with just a gentle bit of persuasion, then the top cap removes, and we have access to the motor here. So the motor has 2 wires. These connect through channel, and that's what these 2 pins that connect to the main body are for. That's how it powers this motor. So we just want to remove these. They're just some spades, so you pull them off. I had to use 2 hands for that just to make sure I don't damage the wires. So the white one's removed now, and also the black one's removed. So we can pick this motor out. We just want to rotate it clockwise a little bit so it has clearance, and then give it a wiggle and it will come out. After a bit of wiggling, it just comes out. So we need this special tool. It's not too special actually. It's a T10, but it's important that it's a long reach one because we have a screw, as you can just see right in there, and it's quite long here. So previously I used this tool. It's also a T10, but it doesn't go deep enough. So with this T10, we're going to try break this loose and we'll hopefully reveal all the hairs inside. Okay, I stand corrected. So up to this point, everything required the use of the T10, but in fact, this screw that's right in there actually required the T9 here. So we'll just continue working that screw out. There we go. And especially because it's a slightly different sized one, don't get it mixed up with everything else. So now that the screw inside this rotary brush is removed, so this is driven by a belt, so this spins, and then there's a belt system, toothed belt, which I reckon over time it might snap, but this one hasn't. It then rotates this, as you can see. So this black cap should just lift off. Okay, so I had to use a bit more force than required, but once you've taken off that screw that was inside here, you can use a bit more force than you'd expect, but just give this a wiggle and it will eventually come out. It's just pressed in by this piece going into here, but we can immediately see the problem. Over time, a lot of hair gets inside, and that was just creating too much friction against the back piece of this plastic, preventing it from rotating. So what we're going to do is just fish out all those hairs and put it in the bin. Okay, so I've tried the best I could and used a pick to get rid of all the hair. So it's cleared up now, and reassembly is just the reverse of removal. So we'll press this back on just like that firmly, and then we'll get this screw back in. Just drop it in there and tighten it down. Not too tight, it's just a bit of plastic and you don't want to strip the threads. Next to go on is this rubber cap. So just align these holes, 2 dots here, 2 dowels. This just simply goes over, top one's latched in, and now the bottom. There we go. So this can now go back into the brush head. As before, to remove it, we had to rotate it and then pull it out. So now we'll put it in at an angle. Make sure it's seated there. There we go. So it's flush here. And this is now back in its housing. So we'll first of all put in the black wire, because that's at the bottom. That's pressed in firmly, and now we'll the white wire. That's in as well. So with these two in, we can put the top cover back on. This was just prized out, so we kind of just pat it back in. As long as there's no gaps, which there is, just give it a squeeze, that clipped back in. We can start putting the screws back in. So put this piece back on first, and first of all, just place every screw back to where it came out of. So now we go back to using the T10 and start screwing these back in. I'll be finger tightening them all first before using the bigger screwdriver to tighten them down. So all the torque screws are back in, so we just reinstall the brush bar. Just like that. Put the cap back on. Just like that. And use the 2p coin again and lock it in place. Nice satisfying click there. And then put this bottom flat piece in as well. And don't forget to lock this as well. Okay, so we're all done now. Let's test it and see if it works. If it rotates for more than a second, more than likely we've fixed the issue. There we go, so all good. The brush bar is fixed because the hairs were preventing it from spinning.